Two screens, two different views. That's what we're all about. Welcome to Dual Screen Radio, where listening is good.
Hi, folks. This is Shane R. Monroe with Dual Screen Radio. My cohort in crime, Chris Hentschel, a.k.a. Womp, a.k.a. Womp Rats, will not be joining us this episode. He is the proud papa of a brand new little baby boy, little Jacob. He and his wife, Kathy, are doing very well. You might have caught on the forums that he was a little premature, but he looks like he's going to do just fine. And everybody's real busy at the house. So I decided to hold off for a while on putting out a show, but then I figured, well, we better get something out. It's been quite a while, and I don't want people to lose interest in the show. So it's just going to be me and thee this time around. So instead of doing our regular format show, I'd just like to do a wrap-up at for the Electronic Gaming Expo, E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo. I'd like to go through what was shown off there and some of the new events that have transpired since then and some of the information that you guys are going to love to hear about. I'm going to cover mostly DS, of course, but I got a little bit of Wii news in here for you. Plus, I'm going to tell you what's currently on my card and what I'm playing and give you some ideas as to what may be worthy of your cash right now as summer starts to wind down. So anyway, look for Chris to come back on the next show. He should be along. We'll see what happens, though. Babies are a lot of work, believe me, I know. So first up, of course, Square Enix has been very busy on the DS. They've almost reset the standards for graphics on the DS with their 3D engines. Final Fantasy III was absolutely gorgeous. And we've got more good stuff coming from them. Final Fantasy XII, Revenant Wings. See, I knew I was going to say that. I practiced like 5 times before I started the show, and I still said relevant. Revenant Wings, 30 different character battles, 3D environments with 2D sprites, CG cutscenes, mission-based structure, and it looks like it's all touchscreen oriented. And I'll tell you what, if you take a look at some of the videos and stills, it looks absolutely fantastic. So we'll see what happens there. Also from Square, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Ring of Fates. This is your standard hack-and-slash adventure. They're going to have a multiplayer version as well as a solo mission. Lots of mini-games, and again, it's from Square Enix, and it's looking absolutely fantastic on the DS. Lego Star Wars, the Complete Saga is coming to your DS, featuring a lot more mini-games and fewer quests. And the good news is that it's being retooled from the ground up, and it's supposedly going to be a considerably better game than the original Lego Star Wars outing on the DS, which, as you probably already know from either listening to the show here or through your own personal experiences, it was a lame duck. Speaking of duck, great segue, right? Looney Tunes Duck Amuck. Now, this is absolutely fantastic, how good this could be. There was a classic Looney Tunes cartoon. Now, again, I'm going to show my age here. A lot of people in this generation don't even know what Looney Tunes are, or they've seen the grossly watered-down generic crap that Cartoon Network tends to play. Daffy Duck, a wisecracking, smart-ass black duck, and Bugs Bunny often have their little adventures on these cartoons. And Daffy's pretty much an ass, okay. And Bugs Bunny's always sort of the counterpart to that, who's calm, collected, and Daffy's always freaking out and being an ass. Well, in one of the cartoons, they actually showed from an artist's point of view drawing Daffy and messing with him. In other words, they'd change his body around and they'd make him spew sound effects instead of speaking, and Daffy just gets totally pissed off that he's being messed with. Well, of course, at the end of the cartoon, it turned out that it was Bugs Bunny that was screwing with Daffy. And that was always something I thought would have been a great game. Was just a game where you could sit there and mess with a slightly smart Daffy Duck. You could erase his body, change his body out, do all these different things, and be sort of this interactive cartooning studio where you could really mess with the characters. Well, apparently that's what we're talking about. Along with that, we're going to get tons of mini games and drawing challenges. And apparently one of the things you can do to mess with the duck is to close your cover on your DS, which normally would put it in sleep mode, but apparently it smacks Daffy upside the head when you close the lid on him. So that's just one of the possibilities. So, very exciting concept. If it's executed properly, I think we'll have a great title there. Contra 4, of course, was the huge game on a lot of lips at the Entertainment Expo. 2D classic SNES-style action, spanning both screens, and even the bosses span both screens. So it's going to be SNES Contra on steroids. Sounds pretty good to me. Anytime we can get some good 2D shooters, I'm there. We also saw Mushroom Men, an action mushroom gang game. I'm not completely clear on that one, folks, but it was there. I figured I'd bring it up. Maybe Mushroom Men is some sort of a Nickelodeon property or something that I'm not familiar with. I don't know. Insecticide, a 3D mystery detective game, which looks to be sort of on par with Hotel Dusk, as well as some of the other, Touch Detective. So it actually looked pretty good from the pictures I saw. It sounded like it could be a pretty solid detective game, and we've got a few of those already, but we can always get more. Antamarama, a musical rhythm game featuring more rhythm, more music. Not a lot of information at the time of writing, but again, music rhythm games appear to be incredibly popular on the DS. We're going to talk about one later on called High School Musical, based on the horrible IP of High School Musical. But we'll get back to that in a minute. Holly Hobby and Friends, for those of you who may be old enough to remember Holly Hobby, is she even around anymore? I mean, I don't think I've seen Holly Hobby stuff forever. But then again, I guess if they can make a Betty Boop Diner Dash game, I guess that's okay. Draglade, compete in a mix of music grooving. Sounds like yet another one of those rhythm style, record it, play it back, get scored points, that sort of thing. Again, I can always do more rhythm games, especially if the music's really tight. Fish Tycoon. This actually sounds pretty good. It's a direct port of the PC version. 2 tanks. You have full environmental controls. It's all in real time. You have to check them every day, feed them every day, sort of like Nintendogs. Set them up for breeding, etc., etc. And apparently it's a very comprehensive fish tank sim. And apparently you can also put it like in a screensaver mode if you just want to open up your DS and watch some fish float around. Not sure if that'll be a game for me, but I do know that the Tycoon games are very popular, and it's nice to see yet another PC mouse kind of game being ported to the DS. I think those are powerful ports. Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, set for release in November. This is being billed as Pokemon for bigger kids. 200 monsters to catch and train, all sorts of different play mechanics, new play mechanics. It sounds pretty good. It's hugely anticipated, getting tons and tons of press. There's videos, screenshots all over the internet. Be sure to check it out if that sort of thing interests you. Not sure if I can do yet another round of Pokemon, but hey, if this is truly Pokemon for bigger kids, well, sounds good to me. Mega Man Star Force, Leo, Pegasus, and Dragon Edition. Much like the Mega Man Battle Network that came out earlier, play locally with other versions to form networks and trade. And you can do GBA linking with the GBA versions of Mega Man. So probably by the time you hear this, I do believe that those are slated for release this week. If that's your cup of tea, then you'll want to check that out. Race Driver. Now, Create and Race. Now, this to me is one of the most anticipated titles coming up this year. 17 championships comprised of 32 circuits, all based on real-world counterparts. 24 licensed vehicles. Your handling is affected by damage. 120 set pieces, including pit stops and bridges to build your own tracks. You can alter a track's cosmetic appearance with a few skins and some new road surfaces. And you can share and race over the Wi-Fi. And you can store up to 8 of your own custom tracks or download others from other folks and race those tracks. So it really does sound like sort of a 3D version of Racing Destruction Set. We'll see just how good it is. Early reviews and videos look pretty good. Time will tell. Puzzle to Harvest Moon. An interesting sounding puzzler. You plant, raise, and harvest, but only in a puzzle environment. Apparently the puzzle mechanics are very vastly different than anything else we've ever seen, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Hey, I'm always interested in puzzle games, even if it's based on Harvest Moon. River King Mystic Valley was another title that was mentioned but not expanded upon. Now, here's something that really, really makes sense to me, and I honestly think that we should have a lot more of this. Math Play, edutainment math-based card game for up to 4 people. It looks a lot like Uno, but it's teaching you basic math skills. Honestly, I could see a lot more edutainment stuff coming out on the DS. Let's get Leapfrog or VTech or one of these other companies who are huge into portable gaming or toy-type edutainment, and let's get them making DS games. I think that would be huge. I think a lot of parents would want to get in on getting their kids some of this edutainment stuff, and as long as you keep it fun, the kids don't care, so that's really cool. Now, here is the title. This, to me, is probably my most anticipated title. It's based on the most horrible IP available, Hannah Montana. It is also the surprise hit of E3. I've delved into this very deep, folks, because I just couldn't believe that a game based on Hannah Montana could be anything but a disaster waiting to happen. Fortunately, it sounds like I'm wrong. You have multiple instruments to play: drums, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, and bass. You can play all of them. Imagine Guitar Hero on your DS. Create your own music, and with multiplayer, you can jam out with 4 people at once. You'll all have to have a copy of the card, unfortunately. 7 mini-games, make your own music video, and then, of course, you can do the girly crap like dress and explore the Hannah Montana world. But if you look at the videos, if you look at the pictures, if you read the write-ups, you will be just as excited about this game as me. I mean, this sounds like Rock Band to me. This sounds like Rock Band DS. So I would check that out because I'm really excited about that. Of course, the last in the series of Phoenix Wright games, Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, already available in Japan. Not English friendly, however, it is going to be available shortly here. And for those of you who are worrying about whether they're going to monkey with it, apparently it's more of the same. And more of the same tends to work for me. My wife will love it. Rune Factory, a fantasy Harvest Moon. Appears to be an action RPG, hack and slasher style with a farm sim built in. Sometimes the sims can be fun, so you combine the two together, we could strike gold. We'll have to see what it looks like. Warhammer 40,000 Squad Command. This is a huge IP property. Tons of people are into Warhammer. Turn-based strategy game, and the first pics and information look pretty good. I'm not a turn-based strategy fan, folks, so I'm like the last person you want to check out, or to believe when I check this game out. Moving along, Mega Man ZX Advent. More of the first Mega Man ZX, with the admitted bugs and poor UI fixed, along with a co-op mode. This could be a decent game for the Mega Man fans, because apparently the first one left a lot to be desired. Bratz for real, like we need another IP based on Bratz, but whatever. We also get a game, Front Mission, also from Square Enix, which is a turn-based mech fighting game. And I'll tell you, mechs are big right now, thanks to Transformers, and turn-based strategy is also very popular. And, of course, Square Enix knows how to put a game out. Yet another game high on my desired list. It's going to be a fantastic end of the year, folks. Dementium, The Ward. It's a first-person horror survival game. And this actually looks great. You got to see the videos. I'm going to give you a link to the videos. Rain, flashing emergency lights, bloody texture overlays, the grit of the place comes out. Lighting techniques are amazing for the DS. Smooth locked frame rate. The whole game it looks solid. It looks like your creepy Silent Hill. It looks like your creepy Resident Evil. Blood and gore fest. It's got action and puzzles. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. The videos look great. Let's hope that the game stands up. Spectrobes 2 was also announced. Here's some more edutainment titles, spelling challenges, and more. Now, I know that both of my daughters are still not the greatest of spellers. It's an edutainment type speak and spell. It's got spelling bees, challenges, and tons more. I'm really hoping that they budget these games properly, make them $19, get the parents involved, and plug them just as much as they do those touch generation games, because I think they're important. The new Cartoon Network rehash of George of the Jungle is going to get its own platformer headed to the DS. I can't say I'm surprised. EA Playground. We've heard a lot about this in the past. EA has jumped squarely on the DS and Wii bandwagon, pumping out several titles for both platforms this year. Some of them actually good, like Boogie. This is a modest collection of kid-friendly mini-games, dodgeball, shooting spitballs, skateboarding, standard stuff. My guess is going to be there'll be a couple of good gems in there. Spitball shooting would be one of them. You know, it could end up being an on-rails shooter with spitballs. Could be fun. Could be fun. Next up, Namco Museum DS. For those of us who are whores for classic video gaming, Namco Museum sounds like it's going to fit the bill. We get a lot of the same games we've already seen and a couple of games we could really give a rat's ass about. Mappy, Pac-Man, Xevious, Galaga, Galaxian, Dig Dug 2, and the Towers of Druaga. Actually, let's be honest. What's in here that you really want? Mappy and Galaga. The rest of it, eh. Now, most important, which would be worth the title alone, is Pac-Man Versus. And Pac-Man Versus, as we've discussed on another show, is a GameCube game that only came as a bundle with something else. I can't remember exactly what it was. Pac-Man World 3 maybe, Pac-Man World 2, something like that. Pac-Man Versus is one of those games that everybody's heard about but nobody's gotten to play. Namely because of the very strange hardware setup that you had to have to play Pac-Man Versus. First you had to have a GameCube and a GBA. You had to have a GBA to GameCube cable, which very few people have, and you had to have 3 GameCube controllers. Now, most of us probably have something close to that, but if you really wanted to play Pac-Man Versus, you had to have all of that. Now, I went out and bought everything I needed because, I wanted to see what a new Pac-Man would look like. And this Pac-Man Versus is way cool, folks, and should be absolutely fantastic on the DS. Basically, it's 3 ghosts versus Pac-Man, and the 3 ghosts are played by humans. And Pac-Man, of course, is played by another human. The cool thing about this is on one screen, you'll see Pac-Man as you've always seen Pac-Man. You see a maze, the ghosts, the power pellets, and you move around like regular Pac-Man. The people who are playing the ghosts, however, have a very limited view. They can only see a small radius around their ghost. So what they see on their screen is a very limited view of the maze. They have to hunt down Pac-Man based on this limited view. The game sounds crazy. It sounds very simplistic, but it works and it's very cool. And the fact that you'll basically be able to throw down on multiple DSs, and from what I understand, DS download availability. So basically one guy with the cartridge can come and meet up with 3 of his friends and they can play a 4-player version of Pac-Man Versus. Apparently there's going to be lots of different screen modes, much like the Konami arcade classic series that we got earlier in the year. DS download versions of each game of the collection. So if you want to send your friend a copy of Pac-Man, a copy of Galaxian, whatever, you can do that. Official dip switch settings, just like the real games. And as I mentioned before, of course, only 1 DS is required to play Pac-Man Versus. And it's going to come out for $20. So I am very excited about that. No End to Rhythm Games. Rhythm and Notes is a keyboard, piano-based rhythm game. And that's a little bit different. We haven't seen a keyboard-related one. We see lots of guitars and lots of other sort of things, but we haven't really seen a keyboard or piano one. So we'll keep an eye on that. Orcs and Elves is on its way to the DS, a port of the popular id RPG, now available for cell phones. Supposedly it's very much like Dungeon Master, for those of you who remember. Let's see if it can break the spell of Etrian Odyssey for me, because let's be honest, Etrian Odyssey still owns my ass. We got some other stuff, Cookies and Cream, Naruto, Path of the Ninja, a couple other little IPs like that, of course, were announced. Jam Sessions, Virtual Guitar Simulator. This has been a hugely anticipated title. Everybody's looking to have Guitar Heroes on their DS, and this is going to be yet another attempt to do it. My Life Coach, you probably have seen coming out from the Touch generation. This is your standard virtual version of Dr. Phil. Apparently, it uses guilt to make your life better. So you check in with the virtual life coach from time to time during the day, tell him what you've been doing, what you've been eating, and he chastises you. Could be fun, actually. Could be stupid as hell, but whatever. The Imagine series is coming out, another sort of virtual deal, not a lot of information available. Comes in 3 flavors: Fashion Designer, Master Chef, not Master Chief, Master Chef, and Figure Skater. Super Collapse 3, which is another game we certainly did not need, is going to make its way over to the U.S. shores. And Walt Disney Pictures Presents. That's part of the title, folks. I love how pompous Disney has to be. Their names have to be all over. Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. Walt Disney Picture Presents Enchanted. So Enchanted, speaking of Pirates of the Caribbean, looks to be a young chick 3D adventure game, much like Pirates of the Caribbean, but aimed at girls. Now, if they use the Pirates of the Caribbean engine, you're going to get a solid game here, and it might even turn out like Princess Peach, where who cares if the protagonist is a female? I want in, because I really, really dug on Super Princess Peach, and I really dug on Pirates of the Caribbean, so let's see what happens. Also from Disney comes Disney Friends, mini games, it looks like pets, which is a kid-friendly kind of Disney character simulator mini game type deal. Hard to say. Seven Wonders of the Ancient World was also shown, a mumbo-jumbo puzzle game that came from the PC. Again, like I said, you can't have enough puzzle games on the DS, so bring it on. Another Sweet Life of Zack and Cody is apparently coming out, Circle of Spies, another one of those things I could do without. Power Rangers is making a return under the Super Legends subtitle. It's going to be mini games set in the Power Rangers universe. Once again, I could pass on that. High School Musical making the cut, which appeared this week in game stores. And let me tell you something about High School Musical, folks. It's High School Musical, which means immediately most of us will scan right past it on the rack. But if you get an opportunity to give it a try, you'll find it's a pretty decent rhythm game. Much like Elite Beat Agents, you have to tap the dots in the right time. They put the dots over different instruments like drums, guitars, things like that. So instead of making the story continue, you're actually kind of playing the instruments, if that makes sense. Pretty cool. I mean, it's not bad. If you were to take the IP off of it and put it on something else, and of course completely change the music and everything else about the game, it could be fun. To me, this would be one of those games that if you've played every other rhythm game and you're jonesing for another rhythm game, or you pick it up for your kids, you might be able to sneak a shot at the cart later on at night when they're in bed. You don't want anyone to know about it. I could definitely see High School Musical being a guilty pleasure, much like that Hannah Montana game that I was talking about earlier. Balls of Fury is coming out as well. And from the box shot, I saw a picture of Christopher Walken on the box, and Christopher Walken and me are good buddies. I love Christopher Walken. He's my hero. And apparently, this is going to be an extreme ping pong type of a game. We'll see if they can challenge Rockstar's ping pong ball extravaganza. Cheetah Girls, and that's supposed to be another one of these weird IPs from like Cartoon Network. Popstar Sensations is coming out. Q4 release on Advance Wars 2. Not much information about it. It's being pretty tight-lipped, but word on the street is Europe's going to get the game before we do in the U.S. Crazy. Xbox favorite Geometry Wars is coming to the DS as well as the Wii, and it's under the subname Galaxy. 60 levels of play, online leaderboards with per-level stats, single-screen play, DS download demo version. Use the mics to blow enemies off of you. You also have versus play as well as tons of other little goodies that they're going to throw in there. Should prove to be interesting. It'll be the first time we've seen Geometry Wars off of the Xbox, and I'm glad to see that. Iron Man is also getting a DS game. No information available. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Looks pretty good in the screenshots and the videos that we've seen. It really sort of looks like Summer Games, the old Epix title, making its way to the DS with some licensed characters. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm definitely not going to discredit it yet. Midway is also chewing the DS and Wii fat. They are releasing Ultimate Mortal Kombat, the fully emulated arcade version on the DS. It has been shrunk to fit one screen, and as of this moment, there's nothing going on the other screen but a logo. Early reports indicate that it is absolutely perfect emulation. The only thing they've had to do was knock some pixels off in order to get it to fit in the slightly smaller than arcade DS screen. But the videos look outstanding, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat has all the great characters in it, including my favorite, Baraka. So I'm actually kind of excited about that. I'm jonesing to see Mortal Kombat on a Nintendo handheld done right. We'll see what happens. The Nintendo craze is not over. Pocket Pets is coming out, featuring dogs, cats, chickens, and rabbits. Now, I don't understand why we get chickens but no ferrets. I'm telling you, the first ferret game you put out, I will be waiting in line to get that. I'm sorry, I'm a ferret slut, and I want to see a game with ferrets in it. I know there's a GBA import game that features ferrets, but I can't read Japanese. I looked at it. It doesn't help me. Another training in minutes a day, Flash Focus. Vision training in minutes a day. It looks like brain training with visuals. Very polished looking. Lots of mini games. It looks like it'll fall right into the Touch Generation lineup. Looks like it could be fun. And, you know, we all have a couple of minutes a day we need to kill. Maybe this will fit right in there. Digimon World Dawn and Dusk editions. I don't know what the point is about splitting these monster games into two games other than the quest for more cash. Isometric adventure, over 400 Digimon from 8 different species. Each game has its own unique monsters that can be found through wireless communication with the opposing version. Standard deal. So if you're looking for yet another monster collector game, there you go. Harvest Moon Island of Happiness also was announced. Picross DS is already out after it's been announced, and I'm telling you, if you are a puzzle person, wait no longer. Go out and get Picross right now. Just trust me on this one. Lots of online options, lots of puzzles, make your own puzzles, share puzzles, fantastic game. If you're a Sudoku lover, you have to have this. It's not Sudoku, believe me. It is its own totally different game. Picross DS can't say enough good about it. Nintendo Crossword. Now, I've been chanting a lot about how much I enjoy the New York Times crossword game. In fact, that's become our regular throwdown game at work. I know it sounds crazy, right? A crossword puzzle game. But what's cool about the New York Times crossword, as we mentioned before, is you can sit together in a group and a bunch of you can get together and solve the same crossword together in real time. So one of you is hip on movies, one of you is hip on sports, one of you is hip on, old stage stuff. You all get together, you sit down, you open up the same puzzle, and you all play together. Or you can play against each other and try to solve more of the puzzle than your friends do. Now, Nintendo, and I didn't understand, why Nintendo hadn't kicked one of these out already. Nintendo Crossword's coming out with full handwriting recognition. And I'm telling you, if you look at the videos, it looks super slick, very sweet. I'm telling you, I'll be in line to buy that one because how much I like New York Times crosswords, it's a little hard. If you've ever done the New York Times crossword puzzles, especially anything but the Monday puzzles, which are supposedly the easy ones, Nintendo Crossword looks like it'll have slightly easier hints, which is what I need. Chibi Robo Park Patrol is still out and about in development. 3D action game. You look like you run around and save parks. Looks like it has the same charm of the GameCube version, and there's lots of stylus use, which is always fun. Kind of looks like an interesting game. I didn't really play the GBA versions, the GameCube version. So I'm not really sure what to expect, but the videos show you watering plants, and, it looks like another sim-type game, which, I can be down on if it looks good and it plays good. Mario Party DS. Whew, now that is something I'm very excited about. The only problem, of course, is there's not going to be any online play from early indications, which to me pretty much kills the title. It does give you 4-player support in a LAN scenario. Word is that they're going to find some way of getting single card out of it, which will definitely be that'll be a good thing. And the screens look very good. It looks very much like the original Mario Party series on the GameCube. And we have very little info about it at this time, which I thought was kind of interesting. They're keeping real hush-hush about it. That does not excite me. Sonic Rush Adventure, more of Sonic Rush plus some enhancements. Both screens will be used, of course, and it will be it'll be better use of both screens, according to the interviews and information I've read. Donkey Kong Jungle Climber, similar to King of Swing on the GBA. Both screens will be completely used and features mini-games and multiplayer. I took a look at the Japanese import of this, and I'm telling you, if you can get used to the controls, the game is kind of fresh in the way that it uses the controls, and it's kind of fresh how it's done. A lot of people didn't like King of Swing. I was lucky enough to miss it on the GBA, so I don't have any preconceived notions. I did play some of the multiplayer on it. We threw down some single-card multiplayer. And it's sort of a race scenario where, you and other guys race to get to the end of the finish line. And it's really a matter of who has the controls mastered the best. Could be fun. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the U.S. release. Yet another Harvest Moon DS Cute was announced. Of course, more information on Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. An October 1 release date was given out, as well as letting it be known that it's 100% stylus controlled, which is going to piss some people off. We'll see what happens. Plenty of information around with that kicking around, folks. Google search will reveal tons of stuff. Bleach Blade of Fate, 28 selectable characters, the ability to move between upper and lower plane battle arenas in an effort to escape opponents, build spirit card decks to strategically access power-ups and power-downs, perform special attacks, cast healing spells on themselves, displace opponents or prohibit them from using their own special cards. 4-player full Wi-Fi support. Now, that sounds good to me. A fighting game with 4-player Wi-Fi? I'll take a look at it. I don't know anything about the Bleach IP. I know it's real popular, but I want down on that. Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword. New videos, new interviews. There's tons of information available with this on the web. I would look around. It's looking very, very good. Hold the DS book style. The ninja's completely controlled with a stylus. It looks sweet. Give it a look if that sounds interesting to you. Drawn to Life was also brought up, where you draw your own characters in the game. WWE SmackDown Versus Raw 2008. Apparently, this is a turn-based wrestling that uses gestures. Now, from the people who have played it, who've played the early builds, they say it actually works. I don't know. Me personally, wrestling to me is kind of an action thing. I think I might be pissed if it turned out to be a turn-based game. We'll see. A brand new Simpsons game has been announced, and there's tons of information kicking around on the net for that. It's a 2D side-scroller. The engine looks absolutely great. And there's tons of single-card minigames. So it looks like we could be returning to the genesis of great Simpson games. We'll see what happens with that. Legend of Spyro makes another attempt on the DS, the Eternal Night, and let's hope that it doesn't suck again like every other version of Spyro that's come out that's been slow and difficult to play. Nancy Drew and the Deadly Secret of Old World Park. This actually looks to be like a pretty decent interactive mystery title. Again, if you can handle the IP, you might be able to get yourself yet another good investigative detective mystery style game. Wild West, another game announced, is a Western-based mini-games collection. That could be fun. I mean, I could see having, shooting galleries and fast draws and stuff like that. That could be fun. Operation Vietnam is a top-down action shooter, much in the vein of Ikari Warriors. I gotta say, it looks absolutely great. Hopefully we'll have some Wi-Fi play in there. You can play with your friends, shooting up with your buddies, not shooting up drugs, folks, shooting up other things and people with your friends, which, strangely, that doesn't sound any better. But if you can have a good time with like an Ikari Warrior shoot-'em-up fest with your buddy over Wi-Fi, that'd be cool. Couple other standard IPs coming out, Crayola Treasure Adventures. The Bee Movie, of course, is going to have a game tied to that. Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, we get yet another venture into the Tony Hawk world. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare looks a lot like Brothers in Arms that we talked about a couple shows ago. It looks very good. There's video kicking around now. Lots of screenshots and lots of information. If you're looking for that World War II shooter, and apparently who isn't, go check it out. Godzilla Unleashed Double Smashed, another of the Godzilla-style games being, fighting games very similar to Rampage, it looked like to me. It looks clean. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure if you can get a full game out of that or not. Jenga is coming to the DS, which makes complete sense to me. That's the stack 'em up blocks and try not to knock over the thing. If the physics are good, it'll be a good game. Touch Detective 2.5 We mentioned Touch Detective earlier. More locations and characters this time around. Same type of writing style. Due to come out the holiday of 2007. So it sounds like more of the same with a variety of more info. So that sounds good. Civilization Revolution was also announced. We don't have any information on that. I know a lot of people are excited about that. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Imagination Invaders was also announced. Luminous Arc was also announced, which has a lot of information out now. Could be a cool game. Heroes of Mana should be out around the time that you hear this show. And Heroes of Mana is supposed to be the first real RTS, real-time strategy game based in a fantasy world. Remains to be seen. Early reviews of it have been very favorable. We'll see what happens. Nanostray 2, the beautiful, gorgeous, yet somehow sterile shooter for the DS. Nanostray comes up with a second version, this time with new touchscreen controls. It even looks better than the first one, and it has full Wi-Fi functionality, so maybe you're going to be able to shoot with a friend. That'd be fun. Paint by DS, this actually looks good since I guess the Bob Ross painting game got canceled. This really looks like a deluxe paint type program. For those of you who are old school Amiga people, Deluxe Paint was like still, to this day, it's still one of the best paint programs ever made, and it looks like we're getting sort of a weird port for it for the DS. Turn It Around, another game that has already been kicking around. I believe in Europe it's already out. Turn It Around is a mini game based on spinning a wheel at the bottom. So it's a lot like kind of the WarioWare thing. You get some quick action games that deal with the rotation. Which is funny, though, you can also use the buttons to do it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, never mind. Zoo Hospital was also announced. Madden NFL 08 is due to come out. Probably by the time you've heard this, it'll already be out. Madden 08, of course, is this year's incarnation. I did take a look at it because, I'm not a huge football fan. I'm more of an arcade football guy. But I was tantalized by some of the features that Madden 08 offered, including a virtual version of paper football. And I don't know how many of you as kids at school played with a paper football, where you make one of those little footballs out of paper, you kick field goals, you got to kick it up and down the table. I had to see that. And while it definitely looks like it was sort of tacked on and the visuals are pretty grody, it's still a pretty fun game, especially if you got a friend around that you can hook up with. Several mini games, several two-player type training games, as well, of course, as a full-blown regular game of football. The graphics have been enhanced a little bit. More speech, more visuals, more plays, of course. This is your standard Madden 08 upgrade. But suffice to say, there's been a couple of new things like color-coordinated passers, where you can actually see based on colors who's more covered than somebody else. Since you do have that kind of low-resolution view, you can't always tell if you've got guys covering your receivers. So it actually looks pretty good. My write-up on the DualScreenRadio.com website, the database, I basically put, if you haven't jumped into Madden yet and you want to play online, and you want the benefits of this new version, then I'd say it's definitely worth picking up. If you've got 07 and 06 and you're happy with it as is, this probably isn't going to do much for you, unless, of course, you want to play online. Star Wars The Force Unleashed was rumored to have a DS version coming out, as well as cult favorite Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah, that's going to be out too. Tiger Woods PGA Tour 08, which apparently they haven't fixed a whole lot of from the PGA Tour 07. Again, you'll probably be able to play online. Need for Speed Pro Street, not much information on that. And we're going to round off the list here with Ed, and Eddie, Scam of the Century. Yet another one of those IPs I've never really understood. So that kind of wraps up what we heard about at E3. And as you can tell, it's a very stellar lineup. There's a lot of good things. Of course, there's a lot of trashy IPs, but you get that with any console. Suffice to say, what's really cool is announced at E3 that there would be 140 plus DS games released between E3 and the end of 2007. That's amazing, folks. And they promised us over 100 Wii releases between E3 and 2007. So that's very exciting, folks. That's cool stuff. Well, now that we wrapped up the E3 coverage, I just want to talk a little bit about what's on my DS, what I've been playing. I don't want to do a whole lot of reviewing because Chris isn't around, and, we have the whole stylus thing going on. But sometimes I like to touch base, and people always say, well, what are you playing now? What are you playing now? So I'm going to run through my card here and tell you what I've been playing. Bomberman Land Touch, of course, is a game that I can't get enough of. It's one of our regular throwdown games. If you've got a couple of friends to play with, you can't beat Bomberman Land Touch's classic battle mode. I've been playing a little bit of Cake Mania and Diner Dash. I kind of lump those together as cell phone games made for the DS. I still play those. I've been playing Etrian Odyssey has been pretty much my game. I'm down to level 16. I guess there's 30 levels, so I'm barely halfway through the game. So I've got absolutely tons of stuff left to do. I'm very excited about that. So that's been my RPG. Glory Days 2 showed up. I got that on the card. I played that a little bit. Aside from some real glaring, it looks like they shortcutted a couple of things. Like sometimes, here's an example. Sometimes when you land your helicopter on the ground, the whole screen jumps like over to the left, like a full sprite distance, a full sprite width. It looks sloppy. It looks like somebody cut a couple of corners and hoped nobody would notice. So, I'm still looking at High School Musical as well. I know that sounds horrible and it's a horrible IP, but as I mentioned earlier, it's turning out to not be too bad. I've been playing a lot of Super Basketball on the Konami Classic Series, Arcade Hits. That's still one of my favorite DS packages. Very nice game. Of course, Madden 08, as I mentioned earlier. Good stuff there. I imported more Brain Training, the Brain Age 2, from Europe, and took a look at that. There's some very interesting games. Some games that are actually fairly useful, like how to count back correct change. Unfortunately, the game is all in what we Americans call funny money. In other words, it's all in like British pounds and pence and all that. So it tends to throw you off because we don't really have dollar coins over here. I mean, we've got them, but you never see them. So that kind of throws you. I've also been playing IDOS's Nervous Breakdown, which is sort of an obscure Arkanoid type game. It's kind of fun. I also started playing Pet Alien, which is a lot like, it reminds me a lot of Chip's Challenge. They put you in a room and you got to run around and kind of solve puzzles to get the access keys to get out of the room. Very similar to that. Picross, of course, I'm playing the crap out of. Puzzle Quest I thought I'd be still playing, but there's just so much else to do. Of course, I've been playing a lot of New York Times crossword puzzles. That's always fun. Touchmaster has been sucking down a lot of my time. Maquis and 5-Star General are my games, and you'll see my name, Dark Uni, posted up on the Touchmaster ratings up online. I've also revisited Word Up. It's a homebrew, kind of a Tetris meets Boggle meets Scrabble kind of game. It's a lot of fun. And those have been what I've primarily been playing. It's amazing that there's so much stuff out there that I actually want to play. It's been such a great year, and it's just going to get better on the DS. And I got to say, coming from a guy, who wanted to sleep with his Atari Lynx when he was younger, I'm telling you, the DS has surpassed all of my expectations for portable gaming, and I'm very excited about it. I even took a couple-week hiatus and borrowed a PSP from a friend of mine because a lot of people in the forums at dualscreenradio.com, the forums were giving me flack. It's like, how do you talk bad about the PSP? You don't even have one. There's some good games, blah, blah, blah. So I got a DS, and I hacked it, and I tried some emulation on it. I tried some commercial classic gaming packages, watched some movies on it. And, it just, between my Nintendo DS and my Korean GP2X unit, I've got everything covered from the PSP. I mean, don't get me wrong, the PSP screen is absolutely outstanding. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But for the amount of media that I watch versus the amount of gaming I actually do, the DS and GP2X made a better combo for me. What can I tell you? So I guess, folks, we're going to kind of keep this show short. It's already running about 45 minutes, so you guys got a little something to keep you tied over until Chris gets back on his feet and the baby gets a little more independent. But we're going to have tons. There's so much stuff coming up. There's so much stuff to review. Chris and I have tons of stuff to talk about. It's just a matter of getting the time worked out. For those of you who are waiting for the return of Retro Gaming Radio, my other classic game-based show, we're going to be returning to regular shows this month. Coming up soon, we're going to have a full-packed show talking about the Classic Gaming Expo. We got some new flashbacks, some new GP2X info. So if you're one of those cross-listeners, we've got a new show coming, and it's going to be cool. We've got a new feature called Chasing the Chuck Wagon that's going to be on the show. We brought somebody else in to do that, so it's going to be exciting. And, of course, we've got such a great year in front of us for Dual Screen Radio. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, folks, this is Shane R. Monroe, and while we don't have 2 screens and 2 views this time, remember that listening is good. And take care. We'll see you next time.